Right. Hello. Today we're going to look at the desktop, the editing module inside of Jahshaka. So on the left hand side, if you just click on editing, bring up the editing module, it'll most likely start with the project tab open. The project tab is pretty much, as you can see, where all your tracks would be. Then there's a cut tab. Then there's basically inside the cut tab, once you add a clip, you can add on some effects to it. Then there's a track tab, which basically is more for like compositing. If you want to do a bit of animation inside of the editing module, and also if you want to like resize your video. And then the settings tab. The settings tab will be the same for every single track that you have, and that's basically the global settings. So we've got normalization, which is NTSC or PAL. Unfortunately, weird as it is, Jahshaka can import HD but can't export HD, which I just found really weird. Although I think if you put PAL on and then put the aspect ratio to 16:9, I think that is pretty much, I'm not sure if someone knows better, kind of like 720p, because your resolution is still 720 by whatever, so but I'm not 100% sure on that one. Unfortunately, that's one of the big things, but I'll try to show you a way around that. Then we have audio driver settings. There's loads of different audio drivers here. I don't understand what they do. Generally, I'd say leave it as default, especially seeing as Jahshaka is so buggy. It's better just to leave it as default, seeing as it seems to work. There's rescaling, which I'm guessing basically means changing the dimensions of your source footage, but because my source footage is PAL, I wouldn't really need to change it. It just comes up. Then there's deinterlace. If you're using HD stuff or progress in say 720p, the P means progressive scan, so it's not interlace, so you don't need this and it won't make any difference. But I use an DV camcorder, so my footage is interlaced. So technically, when I put it on here, I could then, the way to explain it is basically you see these lines when you are playing your video. I don't know if it'll come up in here because I think Jahshaka actually, as you can see, if you can see, there's some choppiness, especially when I get periods of fast movement. And the reason is because of the interlacing. The interlacing is basically taking two fields and mixing them in one. So here we can actually see the choppiness quite well. There's different lines. What this deinterlacing will do was get rid of that by blending them together, and there's different methods of blending. I honestly don't know which is the best, and it all depends on the particular project that you're using. There's a lot of resources out there on the internet which do explain the differences and which one's better and which one's not. Right, on the settings tab, there's also a clear project tab. So if you did have anything here, but then it has a habit of saving what you last did, even though you might not have actually saved it and you finished that project. So if you come back in here, click on clear project, it'll clear that up. Obviously, you got save project and open project. Then you also have a store on desktop. The reason it's grayed out at the moment is because we actually don't have anything here. Right, so we'll go, and without further ado, we'll just put some videos in there, and then through using that, we'll look through what's going on here. So the first thing is, I'm going to stick my lightsaber one on. Now I want to create another track, a brand new track. So I got to go here, tracks, append, and now you have to make sure you've got that new track selected to bring your next clip on. The reason is because if you've got the original track selected, it'll just add it to the end of that. So as you can see, we've got our tracks. We've got these lock buttons which stop you from doing certain things to them. I don't really use them that much, but I'm guessing once you get loads and loads of stuff, it's easier to use them so that you can kind of block out and not accidentally modify settings. Right, on the left hand side here, we've got these two cursors. Now it's actually quite counterintuitive in my opinion, but the X means it's actually enabled. If you click on it and you can just see the S and no X, that means it's disabled. The first one is for video and the second one is for audio. So obviously here, if I just pull it across here, it's black at the moment, it's dark at the moment because I've disabled the video. But if I enable video, that's how it goes. And the same thing for this one here. So sound and video. As you can see, you can scrub through like that. You got your play, your backward buttons. You got your frame forward, frame backward buttons. One thing you notice, you don't have keyframing tools here. The other thing you might be noticing is that it automatically resizes to whatever size. The reason is, if you go on the right hand side here, you've got a zoom tool, you've got a moving around tool, a scale tool, and then you've got this tool underneath, and what that does is it resizes it to fit your window as best you want. Now you might have noticed on the right hand side here I've got a bunch of these effects. If you can't see them, that's probably because it's like that. Just where those little circles are, left click, drag across, and you'll get these small, and these are the small amount of effects that are available in the editing module. So if you have a look through them, there's bad picture, charcoal, chroma, chroma blue, color green, color red, drop in, fly out, grayscale, invert. To be perfectly honest, if you want to do any real complex effects, I'd still say use the animation module and then use this only for editing and final composition of your video rather than actually doing effects in here, because there's no point. They're very limited and really hard to do. I will show you how to do some though. So for example, in this video now, right, we're going to go to, I've got my track 2 selected, go to cut, and so this is my track 2. If I wanted to add an effect on top of this, let's say I wanted to chroma this part out here, I'm going to go click on chroma, drag it on top. Now we've got chroma down here. Now to use this, what you need to do is click on the chroma, then on the right hand side here you'll see jar title chroma. The second one is key. If you left click that, then go and click on the color that you want to key out. So left click, as you can see it's completely keyed it out. The reason is because its tolerance is really high. So right underneath that you'll see variance. If you double click on that and just drop that variance down, so let's say 0.1, oh, not even that, okay, 0.01, as you can see it's only keyed out some of it. So it's, unfortunately, this is one of those where it's just using a bit of trial and error, you can kind of figure out what exactly you're aiming for. So as you can see, you then and said your video, as you compared to if you've seen the animation module tutorial, you can see this is actually quite limited and not that good. You can then put other stuff on it, but as I've said, it's not really that worth it. Best to use animation module. So we've got this. Let's say we wanted to actually make this smaller than this shot here. So if you click on the track tab, it's got composite shot and it's got mix. If you click on the composite, what you'll look there is on the right hand side it says jar title composite, transition and whatnot. Right at the bottom it says transition geometry, and it says 0 0 100% times 100%. The 0 0, if I remember rightly, is your position, and the 100% is the size. So if we change that to 50 and that to 50, as you can see it's actually decreased the size and it's at 0 0, which is up here in the top left hand corner. Now if you want to animate this, there is actually a way, if I remember rightly. So if we're here, I'm trying to remember now. This is all real time, so I'm hoping this will work. Oh, I'm guessing that's the opacity I've actually just hit. Alright, don't worry about it, scratch it, it's fine. When I find out a way of animating in here, I'm 99% sure there is a way of animating in here, I will let you know. Until then, basically don't worry about animation here, because as you can see it is extremely long-winded, extremely tedious. Just use the animation module. But it was just to kind of give you an idea of what does go on. You can obviously layer effects on top of each other, so if you then wanted to, I don't know, put a charcoal effect on top of that, you can put the charcoal effect on, and then you can again change that how you wish. There's X scatter, Y scatter, which I'm guessing changes the look and the color. There's also fly in and fly out, so if we click on that, stick it in there, as you can see it flies in. Quite neatly. So you can see that you can make some simple effects, and if you've got like PNG files and stuff, you can add them in here, and the transparency will show through. So you can actually make some, I suppose, complex effects using that rather than using the chroma values on the side here. There is motion blur. The motion blur is negligible. I have to be honest with you. It doesn't really work that well. It doesn't look like proper motion blur in my view. It's more like a stylized version, which obviously is good if you're looking for a stylized type of effect. So on the whole, it's an okay module, but really for effects, just use the animation module. Forget about this one. So as you can see, I can now store this on desktop, because in the animation module, if you want to get out of this system, you have to click on render, and it'll render it, and then it'll render it to the desktop, as you might have noticed in the animation module video. And then from there, then you either encode it or you export the clip. In the editing module, if you click on render on the right hand side here, what it'll actually do is it'll output it to your computer, so it's the final output basically. To get around that process, if you click on store on desktop, what it does is it gives you your scene on the desktop. First time I'm ever trying this, so, and there you go. So you can then use it in your desktop. This is the way I am going to start using Jahshaka, I think, most likely, because it seems to have, by doing this, it doesn't compress the image. And that's one thing I think that's the way Jahshaka works. If it's animating back to the desktop, it will not compress the image. It's only on the final output. Now, I don't know if you noticed when I was trying to output here, it has DivX, raw DV, JPEG sequence. The raw DV is really bad. The quality is really bad. The DivX quality is okay. It's not all that, but it's definitely not the same as the original quality. You can tell. There's a bunch of other sequences that you can use. I wouldn't recommend. I've used a couple, but they don't really work that well, so I generally stick with the DivX one if I am outputting from here. But what you can do now from here is you can click on export clip, and as in one of my other tutorials I showed, it's literally just create a new folder and use that folder to export your clip, and it'll export them all in singular files. The reason I'm saying this is because if you had HD video, because you can't export it normally using the editing module itself, as it doesn't give you an option to have HD video, what you could do is export it back to the desktop, and then from the desktop export it from here as a clip, and then using a separate program you could then combine them all together to make a HD actual video file. Right, so we've kind of looked through everything, seen how everything works. Now we'll go through some of the shortcuts and tabs. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to stick them in the description if you want to have a look at them. I don't know most of them off by heart, to be honest, anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the project and we'll restart it again. So we'll add in our lightsaber, and then we'll add in another track, and we'll add in our scare one. Then, as you can see here, what this shows is the length of the individual track that you selected, and over here it's the length of the track, I suppose. And using that, you can kind of navigate your way around. So these are the in points and out points. So if you want to cut it down from the start or cut it down from the end, you can cut the actual track down in that way. Obviously this, as I've shown you, covers the entire track. So what we'll do is we'll try to cut out some stuff. So let's say here I want to cut the sky replacement. What you need to do is, if I just open up my intro series, to cut is S. That's the one that really I use. Everything else you don't really need to use, but you can if you want to. I'm not great at editing and I don't know the technicalities of editing, but that's the main one that I use, the split clip. So we want this top one to stop there, so I'm going to split it there, and then let's say I want it to stop there, and I'm going to split it there. Now if you want to delete that and leave the gap, you have to press Ctrl and delete. If you click on delete, it will actually delete the clip and move it along. So if I Ctrl Z and undo that, if I then click that and then do Ctrl and delete, it's left the gap for me. So now if we look at our video, we have our video. So as you can see, it's an easy way of doing things. There's as I said, I'll put these in the description below, so you can have a look at them, copy them off, so you can start using them yourself. So as the Control Delete is really the one that you'll be using more. Split clip one, obviously undo. In-out points, marking them in and out. It's just one of those things I'm not really good at editing, so I don't really know how to use them. Once I've learned how to use them, or if someone else does know how to use them, by all means put up a tutorial showing me how to use them. There's obviously copy and paste. There's going to the end and the start of your animation. There's stop and play. Again, some of these I don't use simply because I like using my mouse and pressing the actual buttons. It's so much easier, but some people find it easier using their keyboard. It's everyone to their own, really. You can also move between tracks up and down on your arrow keys, goes between tracks. I'm actually on a laptop, so but if you use, I believe, moving between tracks, moving between clips is page up and down. So I'm on this bottom one. If I press page down, right, page up, it's moving from one clip to the next. So Jahshaka classes, each one of these is a separate clip, and as such, going back to these tabs, each one of these will have a separate effects on it. So if you apply an effect, it won't be to this entire track, it will be to the individual clip on that track, and you can have different clips on the same track. I'll show you that, for example, now. So if I wanted to then add on this, what it's actually done is it's appended it to the end. These can actually be changed by using this section here. So append to track, append after cut, append at end of project, insert before cut, overwrite cut at start, split and insert. So, and you just use that how you want to. But let's say for argument's sake we want to actually put that on top. So we can click on track, append. As you can see, the top track is the bottommost one, and the bottommost track is the topmost one in terms of order of appearance. So let's say we come here. We want this to appear here. Now I want this to start here. There's a real problem with the Jahshaka, and that's that if I want to move it there, if I drag the track, as you can see the timeline is moved. It's one of the most annoying things I've ever found in my life. If you look at my sound tutorial on Jahshaka, that explains it a bit better, and it shows you how I get around it with sound placement. So just check that out for sound. But yeah, it's one of these where you need to use trial and error. Or, for example, if I solo this, let's say I want it at this exact point there. What I do is, as a shortcut, I click on said track, press S. So that's the point I want it at. So now I go back to this track, and it doesn't matter if that moves, because now I've got a line split up there. Because I haven't actually moved that, it won't actually make a difference to the track underneath. It'll just carry on as normal, so it doesn't look like you've actually made a cut or anything, unless it was intentional. So let's say we want to chroma this. Let's chroma it up. Cut, chroma, and here you go. So as you can see, you can do some effects, and they are fairly simple, not the best, but some quick effects would probably help make it okay, and some effects obviously just don't work at all. So if you want to get rid of that clip, just select it, click delete, and there we go. And then you can delete said thing. So if, let's say, right at the start we had it says detonation films here. Let's say we want to get rid of that detonation films part. We go back to our composite thing, and I'm sure there's a way to scale this. Oh, maybe not. There. No, guessing not. Again, I've shown you how to do it in the animation module. It's probably better to get rid of use the animation module to use said image. And there we go. I hope this was an informative tutorial. I know I've bounced about a bit, kind of tried stuff that I haven't actually even tried myself before, but I hope you kind of get the idea of how to use the editing module to your advantage and how to play around with it. Actually, one thing I'll just note just before I stop this, you have an ability to zoom in and then use the bottom to go across. I have found that sometimes gets a bit glitchy when you're trying to place stuff. It gets a bit dodgy, but it might just be my version Jahshaka. To then zoom out, you just click that and it's basically fits it to your timeline. So that's exactly how it should be. And then zoom in, zoom out. Fairly easy to use, not overly complicated. As I said, the basic thing is the main two ones that I think you need to really remember is split clip and the control delete. Control Z is just standard for most places anyway. For most computers on Windows, it's to do undo. So apart from that, I think it's a fairly simple program to use and a fairly simple editing module to use. Again, it's not complicated. It's not, which obviously means you can't do more complicated stuff with it. Like, don't expect it to be Premiere Pro or Final Cut. But hey ho, you're not paying the hundreds of pounds that you're paying for them, so you're getting it for free. But it does the job. It definitely just does the job, and with a bit of pre-planning, you can make some fairly good stuff out of it. Thank you anyway, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see what I can do.